I'll include a link to the original video in the description. So if you want to watch that first, go right on ahead. You might lose some brain cells though. Well, I've talked about Salty Cracker before, and it's time to do it again. Ever hear someone who is annoying in every sentence because they always adopt a sarcastic smartass tone, yet they're not actually intelligent? One of my former housemates was like that, and honestly, it often annoyed the shit out of me. However, there's also a YouTuber with that tone named Salty Cracker. Like my former housemate, he applies that tone to sound smarter than everyone, in lieu of actually having any intellectual integrity. Of course, being a right-wing YouTube personality, he also thinks having many subscribers and sycophantic fans equals being correct. It doesn't. In this case, Salty is apparently wrong to try to link the Black Lives Matter movement to a series of stabbings by a Libyan national in Reading, England. Why does Salty do this? Well, aside from his obvious desire to link any violence he can to Black Lives Matter, it happens sometime after a protest event. Of course, the stabber was not exactly a white person, so it must have been related to the protest, according to Cracker's flimsy standards. Another obvious problem: Cracker makes zero attempts to factually connect the stabbing with the protest. He just implores you to believe it is so. It does not matter that stabbings and terror attacks happen with or without being associated with protests pretty often. To him, there was one on that day, there was a protest on that day, so it must be the protesters' collective fault. Still, common sense tells me that Cracker might just be wrong and might just be a fool. For example, I remember some time ago, an Israeli guy went on a stabbing spree across 3 states, and nearly all of his victims were black males. One can say a number of things about that, but the most relevant observation: these stabbings were apparently unrelated to protests, just like the one Salty Cracker is so excited about. It happens, is the main point. Not everything is linked to a political cause, at least not in any direct manner. So I think that could be the case here. Oddly enough, the stabbings in England have officially been labeled terror attacks. But that's not enough for Salty, because the authorities didn't get Trumpian enough to link the stabbings directly to the protest. And that's how Salty Cracker's mind works. In other words, it doesn't. Still, that doesn't matter to his loyal fans, who will slurp up whatever nonsense he puts in front of them like an army of mindlessly loyal pets. I could talk about how many of his other videos are nonsensical, and they're also equally annoying and factually incoherent, but this video is actually a pretty good example of his manifold weaknesses. Although I do want to mention how he interestingly uses terms like Hollywood pedocrats, while neglecting to mention all the photos of Jeffrey Epstein with Donald Trump, or how often Trump has leered over his own daughter, including on national television. You can't look at something like that and say, well, that's not weird. In fact, it's often something he's done without really being provoked into it. It's like a talking point that he's ready to go to, because he's messed up in the head. So, yes, of course Salty is a partisan hack, which means I don't like him. And let that be a final lesson. If you want to create salty content while still retaining my respect, try to not be a partisan hack. It's actually not as difficult as it sounds if you have the brains. I mean, I don't consider myself a genius, but I managed to avoid being a partisan hack, and I think it makes me a saner, if not better, person. Anyway, like I said before, you can watch the lame-ass video by Salty Cracker if you want, if you're able to choke it down. But again, it's pretty lame. So, yes. Have a good day.